Most people won't watch this to the end, but something tells me you're not here by accident. Right now, maybe you're sitting alone. The room is quiet. A lamp glows in the corner. Your phone rests in your hand. Outside, life continues moving for everyone else. Cars pass. People laugh. Dreams unfold. And yet inside you, there is a question that refuses to leave. A question you've carried longer than anyone knows. When will someone finally see what I have to offer? Not just notice you. See you. See the effort. See the loyalty. See the ideas you've kept hidden. See the strength you've built in silence. You know that feeling, don't you? The strange ache of having more inside you than your current life seems able to hold. The feeling of carrying gifts nobody asks for. The feeling of knowing you could do more, be more, contribute more. If only the right person noticed. Because deep down, most people aren't looking for money. They're looking for confirmation. A sign that their life matters. A sign that all the years weren't wasted. A sign that the struggle meant something. And maybe that's why this message feels personal. Because for a long time you've been walking through life feeling invisible. Not completely invisible, just unseen in the ways that matter. People notice what you do. Few notice who you are. People notice your responsibilities. Few notice your sacrifices. People notice your results. Few notice your effort. And after enough years of that, something begins happening inside. You start becoming smaller. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally. You stop sharing ideas. You stop taking chances. You stop expecting life to surprise you. You begin protecting yourself from disappointment. One day at a time. One missed opportunity at a time. One unanswered prayer at a time. Until eventually, caution starts feeling normal. And that's where many dreams quietly disappear. Not through failure. Through surrender. Not dramatic surrender. Silent surrender. The kind nobody notices. The kind that happens inside the heart. Have you felt that too? The moment you stopped talking about a dream because explaining it hurt more than staying quiet? The moment you stopped believing something extraordinary could happen for you? The moment you convinced yourself that ordinary was all life had planned? Those moments leave marks. Not visible ones. Invisible ones. The kind people carry for years. The kind that shape how they see themselves. And maybe you've carried some of those marks longer than you'd like to admit. Maybe there were opportunities that never came. Relationships that never worked. Promises that never happened. Plans that collapsed. Doors that stayed shut. You told yourself you'd move on. And you did. But part of you kept wondering. What if? What if one opportunity had worked? What if one person had believed in you? What if one connection had changed everything? The human heart is fascinating that way. It never completely stops hoping. Even after disappointment. Even after rejection. Even after years of waiting. Something remains alive inside. Something keeps looking toward tomorrow. That quiet hope is powerful. More powerful than you realize. Because hope survives things logic cannot. Hope survives evidence. Hope survives delays. Hope survives uncertainty. And perhaps that's why you're still here. Still searching. Still listening. Still wanting something more. Not because you're weak. Because you're unfinished. There's a difference. A huge difference. Most people assume successful individuals are interested in talent. That's only partially true. Talent is everywhere. Potential is everywhere. Dreams are everywhere. What is rare is something else entirely. Character. And character reveals itself in hidden seasons. Not during success. During waiting. Not during recognition. During obscurity. Not during celebration. During struggle. That's where real substance develops. The qualities nobody can fake. Patience. Integrity. Humility. Resilience. Compassion. Those qualities cannot be purchased. Cannot be downloaded. Cannot be inherited. Life builds them slowly. Often through experiences nobody would willingly choose. And strangely enough, those invisible qualities are often what powerful people notice first. Not because they are sentimental. Because they understand value. Real value. The kind that lasts. The kind that creates trust. The kind that builds extraordinary things. Think about it. A billionaire can buy skills. A billionaire can hire intelligence. A billionaire can purchase resources. What they cannot easily find is character. Character is rare. Much rarer than people realize. Because character costs something. It costs comfort. It costs patience. It costs endurance. And many people walk away before those qualities fully develop. You didn't. You're still here. Still learning. Still growing. Still carrying dreams despite everything. That matters. More than you think. Because the qualities you've developed during difficult seasons may be far more valuable than the achievements you've been chasing. Most people never hear that. They spend years believing success is about becoming more impressive. Sometimes success is about becoming more trustworthy, more grounded, more authentic, more prepared. Prepared for opportunities they cannot yet see. Prepared for relationships they haven't yet met. Prepared for conversations they haven't yet had. Prepared for moments that haven't yet arrived. This next part matters more than it might seem. What if the reason you felt different your entire life isn't because something is wrong with you? What if it's because something valuable exists within you that has not yet been recognized? What if your frustration isn't evidence of failure? What if it's evidence of untapped potential? What if the qualities you've spent years developing in silence are exactly the qualities someone important has been searching for? Not your perfection, not your resume, not your appearance. You, the real you, the version of you forged through experience, the version of you shaped by hardship, the version of you that kept moving when quitting would have been easier. Because that's where the story becomes interesting. The question isn't whether valuable people exist. The question isn't whether opportunities exist. The question is whether someone has already begun noticing something about you that you haven't fully recognized yourself. And if that's true, if there is a reason someone powerful would be interested in you, then the reason might be far more surprising than you ever imagined. Now let's talk about the shocking part. Because the reason a billionaire would become interested in someone like you is probably not what most people imagine. Most people think wealthy, influential, and successful individuals are constantly searching for the smartest people, the most attractive people, the most educated people, the most connected people, the most impressive people. But after a certain level of success, something changes. The game changes. The priorities change. The questions change. Because once someone has enough money, they stop asking, "Who has the most talent?" And they begin asking, "Who can I trust?" That single question changes everything. Trust. It sounds simple, but trust has become one of the rarest resources in the modern world. People can pretend to be skilled. People can pretend to be confident. People can pretend to be successful. But eventually masks fall. Eventually character speaks. Eventually truth appears. And those who have spent years building empires understand this better than anyone. Because they have been disappointed before, betrayed before, misled before, used before. They've learned that talent without character is dangerous. Intelligence without integrity is risky. Ambition without values creates problems. That's why truly successful people often notice things others overlook. They pay attention to behavior, patterns, choices, consistency, the little things, the things most people ignore. And perhaps this explains something you've never understood about yourself. Maybe your greatest strengths have never been visible strengths. Maybe your greatest strengths are hidden ones. The fact that you keep your word. The fact that you're loyal. The fact that you don't quit easily. The fact that you care deeply. The fact that you continue showing up even when nobody is rewarding you. Those qualities seem ordinary, but they aren't. They're rare. Exceptionally rare. Because most people become whoever circumstances encourage them to become. Few people remain true to themselves when life becomes difficult. Yet that's exactly where character is revealed. Not when everything goes right. When everything goes wrong. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. One becomes bitter. One becomes wiser. One becomes resentful. One becomes stronger. One gives up. One grows. The challenge was identical. The response was different. And that response reveals everything. Because life doesn't simply test us. Life introduces us to ourselves. It reveals who we are underneath comfort. Underneath convenience, underneath applause, underneath recognition. And what it reveals becomes our foundation. This matters because foundations determine futures. A weak foundation cannot support a strong future. No matter how impressive the surface appears, sooner or later cracks appear. Sooner or later pressure exposes weaknesses. Sooner or later reality wins. That's why people who understand success look beneath appearances. They look beneath titles. They look beneath popularity. They look beneath first impressions. They want to know what remains when all those things disappear. Because that's the real person. And maybe that's the shocking truth. Maybe the reason someone powerful would become interested in you has very little to do with what you've accomplished. Maybe it has everything to do with who you've become. Think about the last few years. Think about everything you've survived. The disappointments. The setbacks. The uncertainty. The moments nobody knows about. The private battles. The silent tears. The difficult decisions. The lonely nights. The responsibilities. The sacrifices. Those experiences changed you. Not always in ways you noticed. But they changed you. And while you were focused on surviving them, something valuable was being created. Perspective. Wisdom. Patience. Empathy. Strength. Depth. The world rarely celebrates those things. Yet they are often the exact qualities that determine long-term success. Because success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about staying there. It's about carrying responsibility wisely. It's about handling pressure without breaking. It's about remaining grounded when everything changes. Those qualities are developed long before success arrives. And that's where many people become confused. They think preparation is punishment. They think waiting is failure. They think delay means denial. But sometimes delay is development. Sometimes waiting is training. Sometimes preparation is happening where nobody can see it. A seed underground appears inactive, but appearances can be deceiving. While nothing seems to be happening above the surface, everything is happening below it. Roots are forming. Strength is growing. Foundations are expanding. Preparation is taking place. The same is true for people. Some of the most important seasons of your life may have looked completely unremarkable from the outside. Yet internally, they were transforming everything. And perhaps that's why you shouldn't measure your progress solely by visible results. Because some growth cannot be seen immediately. Some growth reveals itself later. Much later. This next thought might change how you see your entire story. What if the qualities you're most insecure about are actually signs of depth? What if your sensitivity isn't weakness? What if your empathy isn't a disadvantage? What if your persistence isn't stubbornness? What if your desire for meaning isn't unrealistic? What if the very things you've questioned about yourself are part of what makes you valuable? Many people spend years trying to become someone else, trying to fit expectations, trying to impress, trying to belong, trying to look successful, trying to appear important. But the people who make the greatest impact often do something different. They become more themselves, not less. They stop performing. They start aligning. They stop pretending. They start becoming authentic. And authenticity is magnetic. Not because everyone likes it, because it's real. People are drawn to what's real, especially those who spend their lives surrounded by what's fake. Imagine spending years hearing people tell you what you want to hear, pretending, performing, trying to gain something. After enough time, authenticity becomes priceless. You start valuing honesty more than charm, character more than talent, integrity more than image, depth more than appearance. And that may be the exact reason someone important would notice you. Not because you're trying harder than everyone else. Because you're becoming something rarer than everyone else. Someone genuine. Someone trustworthy. Someone grounded. Someone real. And in a world obsessed with appearances, that stands out. Far more than you realize. Because real value doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't chase recognition. It simply exists. And eventually the right people notice. Always. The question isn't whether they'll notice. The question is whether you'll recognize your own value before they do. Because the next part of this story isn't about being discovered. It's about understanding why you were worth discovering all along. And once that realization arrives, everything begins to change. Now the story takes a turn. Because up until this point, we've talked about character. We've talked about growth. We've talked about the hidden qualities that make someone valuable. But there's another layer. A deeper layer. A layer most people never consider. And once you understand it, you'll never look at your life the same way again. Because what if the reason a billionaire would become interested in you has nothing to do with luck? What if it has nothing to do with coincidence? What if it has everything to do with the person you've been becoming all along? Think about that. Not the person you pretend to be. Not the person social media sees. Not the person other people assume you are. The real you. The version of you that exists when nobody is watching. The version of you that continues moving forward after disappointment. The version of you that gets back up after rejection. The version of you that still hopes after years of uncertainty. That version matters. More than you realize. Because life has a strange way of preparing people before revealing why they were being prepared. While you're living through difficult seasons, it feels random, confusing, unfair, pointless. You ask questions. You search for answers. You wonder why certain things aren't happening. You wonder why certain doors remain closed. You wonder why some people move ahead faster. You wonder why opportunities seem to appear for everyone except you. And in those moments, It's easy to assume you're being forgotten. But what if you're not being forgotten? What if you're being formed? There's a huge difference. A diamond doesn't become valuable the moment someone discovers it. It was valuable long before discovery. Discovery simply revealed what was already true. The same applies to people. Your worth does not begin when someone notices you. Your worth exists before recognition, before applause, before success, before opportunity, before validation. Recognition does not create value. Recognition reveals value. And maybe that's what you've needed to hear all along. Because many people spend years chasing proof that they matter. They chase approval, attention, recognition, validation, acceptance. But no amount of external validation can permanently solve an internal doubt. Sooner or later, you must decide what you believe about yourself. And that decision changes everything. Because the way you see yourself influences every opportunity you encounter. If you see yourself as insignificant, you'll overlook possibilities. If you see yourself as incapable, you'll hesitate. If you see yourself as unworthy, you'll sabotage progress. But when you begin recognizing your own value, something shifts. You walk differently, speak differently, think differently. You stop begging for permission. You stop waiting for approval. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You start showing up fully. And that's when life begins responding differently. Not because the world changed, because you changed. Stay with this thought. What if every difficult season you've experienced has been teaching one lesson? Not how to become someone else. How to become yourself. Your strongest self. Your wisest self. Your most authentic self. Think about everything you've overcome. Not just the big challenges. The small ones too. The disappointments nobody saw. The fears nobody understood. The sacrifices nobody appreciated. The moments when you had every reason to quit, but didn't. Those experiences left something behind. Strength. Quiet strength. The kind that doesn't need attention. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that simply exists. And here's the truth. That kind of strength is incredibly attractive. Not just to successful people. To everyone. Because genuine strength creates safety, trust, confidence, stability. People are drawn toward those qualities naturally. It's human nature. Especially in a world filled with uncertainty. Now here's where the story becomes truly interesting. Many people assume powerful individuals are looking for extraordinary people, but often they're looking for grounded people. People who know who they are. People who don't panic under pressure. People who remain calm during chaos. People who can handle success without losing themselves. Those qualities are rare. Very rare. Because most people spend their lives chasing success. Few spend their lives preparing for it. And preparation matters. Imagine receiving everything you've ever wanted before developing the maturity to handle it. The money, the influence, the responsibility, the opportunities. Would it help you? Or would it overwhelm you? Most people never ask that question. But life does. Life asks it constantly. That's why preparation often arrives before opportunity. Growth before expansion. Character before influence. Foundation before elevation. It may not feel exciting, but it's necessary. Because opportunities reveal character. They don't create it. Success reveals who people already are. Pressure reveals who people already are. Responsibility reveals who people already are. And maybe that's why your journey has unfolded the way it has. Not because you've been denied. Because you've been prepared. Prepared to carry more. Prepared to handle more. Prepared to become more. Not through shortcuts. Through growth. Real growth. The kind that lasts. This next realization might be the most important one yet. What if the reason someone important notices you someday isn't because you became extraordinary overnight? What if it's because you spent years becoming extraordinary quietly, without recognition, without applause, without guarantees, simply choosing growth over bitterness, faith over fear, hope over cynicism, character over convenience? That kind of person stands out. Not immediately, eventually. And eventually is often more powerful than immediately. Because what lasts is built slowly. Relationships, trust, reputation, influence, legacy, all of them grow over time. And perhaps the same thing is happening in your own story. Perhaps the qualities you've been building are creating a future you cannot fully see yet. A future connected to opportunities you haven't imagined. People you haven't met. Conversations you haven't had. Doors you haven't reached. And when those moments arrive, you'll understand something important. The waiting wasn't empty. The struggle wasn't meaningless. The preparation wasn't wasted. It was all creating someone capable of stepping into what comes next. And what comes next may be far closer than you think. Because the real reason a billionaire or any successful person becomes interested in someone isn't usually what that person can do. It's who they've become. And in the next part, you'll discover why that realization changes everything. There is a moment in almost every extraordinary story that looks completely ordinary while it's happening. A moment so small that most people would miss it. A moment so quiet that nobody would stop and say, "This is it. This is the beginning. This is the moment everything changes." Because real turning points rarely announce themselves. They arrive disguised as normal days, normal conversations, normal decisions, normal opportunities. And that's what makes them powerful. Imagine waking up tomorrow. The same bed, the same room, the same responsibilities, the same life you've known for years. Nothing looks different. Yet somewhere in that day, a conversation occurs. An email arrives. A phone call happens. An introduction is made. A door opens. At first, it feels insignificant. Just another moment. Just another interaction. Just another day. But later, months later, years later, you look back and realize that was the moment. The exact moment everything started moving. Life is full of moments like that. The challenge is recognizing them. Because opportunities don't always arrive looking like opportunities. Sometimes they arrive looking like work. Sometimes they arrive looking like responsibility. Sometimes they arrive looking like uncertainty. Sometimes they arrive looking like risk. And that's why preparation matters. Because prepared people see possibilities where others see problems. Prepared people recognize value where others see inconvenience. Prepared people move when others hesitate. Not because they're fearless, because they're ready. This is where many people misunderstand success. They assume successful people are lucky. But luck alone cannot explain consistent success. Again and again, successful people notice opportunities others ignore. Again and again, they recognize value others overlook. Again and again, they act while others wait. Why? Because preparation changes perception. The person you've become determines what you're able to see. And perhaps that's why your growth has been so important. Because if certain opportunities had appeared 5 years ago, you wouldn't have recognized them. If certain doors had opened too early, you wouldn't have been ready. If certain responsibilities had arrived before your character developed, they might have overwhelmed you. Timing matters. Not because life is trying to delay you. Because life is trying to prepare you. That realization changes frustration into gratitude. Suddenly, the waiting looks different. The setbacks look different. The detours look different. Everything begins making more sense. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough to keep moving forward. Enough to trust the process. Enough to stay open. And staying open matters. Because closed hearts miss opportunities. Closed minds miss growth. Closed expectations miss miracles. Many people become so focused on protecting themselves from disappointment that they accidentally protect themselves from possibility. Don't let that happen. Don't become so focused on what went wrong that you stop noticing what could go right. Don't become so attached to old disappointments that you overlook new opportunities. Don't become so convinced that nothing changes that you stop recognizing change when it arrives. Because change often begins quietly. Very quietly. Like sunrise. Nobody hears the sun rise. Nobody hears darkness disappear. Yet it happens. Gradually. Patiently. Powerfully. Until suddenly the entire world looks different. Your life may be entering one of those seasons. A season where invisible progress begins becoming visible. A season where preparation begins meeting opportunity. A season where growth begins producing results. Not because luck finally arrived. Because the foundation is finally ready to support what's coming. Think about how far you've come. Not how far you still want to go. How far you've already come. There was a version of you years ago who wouldn't recognize the person you've become. A version of you who knew less. A version of you who had less perspective. A version of you who hadn't survived what you've survived. A version of you who hadn't developed the wisdom you now carry. You've grown. More than you realize. More than you give yourself credit for. Growth is difficult to notice from the inside. Because you experience yourself every day. You don't see the gradual transformation. You don't see the strength that developed. You don't see the resilience that formed. You don't see the depth that emerged. But others do. Especially people who understand what those qualities are worth. And that brings us back to the shocking reason someone powerful might become interested in you. It's not because you're perfect. It's not because you're famous. It's not because you're wealthy. It's not because you're connected. It's because you've become someone valuable in ways money cannot create. Someone trustworthy. Someone grounded. Someone resilient. Someone authentic. Someone capable of handling responsibility. Those qualities are rare. And rare things attract attention. Not always immediately. Eventually, the world notices substance. Maybe not as quickly as appearance. Maybe not as loudly as popularity. But more deeply. And more permanently. This next part is important. There are people watching you right now who see more in you than you see in yourself. Maybe they haven't said it. Maybe they haven't expressed it. Maybe they don't even fully understand it themselves. But they notice something. Your consistency. Your attitude. Your integrity. Your strength. Your reliability. The way you continue showing up. The way you handle challenges. The way you treat people. The way you keep moving forward. Those things matter. Far more than you think. Because character leaves clues. And people who understand success pay attention to clues. That's why some opportunities seem to come out of nowhere. They didn't. Someone was paying attention long before you realized it. Someone noticed long before you knew they were looking. Someone recognized value before you understood what they saw. And one day, that recognition becomes visible. One day, the conversation happens. One day, the invitation arrives. One day, the opportunity appears. And everyone else calls it luck. But you know better. You know how much preparation happened before that moment. You know how many unseen years made that moment possible. You know how much growth existed beneath the surface. That's why when success finally arrives, it rarely feels random. It feels earned. Not because you forced it, because you became ready for it. If this message resonates with you, comment, "I am ready." Not because you know exactly what's coming. Because you're willing to continue growing until it arrives. Because readiness is more powerful than certainty. Because growth is more powerful than guarantees. Because preparation is more powerful than prediction. And because the next chapter of your life may begin sooner than you think. The final realization is coming. The realization that explains why your waiting wasn't wasted. Why your struggles weren't meaningless. Why someone powerful would notice you. And why the most shocking truth of all has been right in front of you this entire time. Take a deep breath for a moment. And think about everything we've talked about. The waiting. The disappointment, the hidden growth, the quiet strength, the years that felt invisible, the opportunities that never arrived, the dreams that seemed delayed, the questions that kept you awake at night. Now here's the shocking truth. The shocking truth isn't that a billionaire might be interested in you. The shocking truth is why. Because the reason has almost nothing to do with money, nothing to do with status, nothing to do with fame, nothing to do with appearance, nothing to do with luck. The reason is something much deeper. Something much rarer. Something most people spend their entire lives chasing without ever fully developing. The reason is this. You became the kind of person success can trust. Read that slowly. Not the kind of person who wants success. The kind of person success can trust. There's a difference. A massive difference. Millions of people want opportunity. Few people are prepared for opportunity. Millions of people want wealth. Few people are prepared for wealth. Millions of people want influence. Few people are prepared for influence. The world is full of people asking for more. Very few are becoming more. And that is what separates you. Because while other people were obsessed with appearances, life was teaching you substance. While other people were chasing shortcuts, life was building patience. While other people were looking for easy answers, life was developing wisdom. While other people were demanding immediate rewards, life was creating resilience. At the time, it didn't feel fair. At the time, it didn't feel exciting. At the time, it often felt painful. But now you can see something different. The struggle wasn't trying to destroy you. It was revealing you. The pressure wasn't trying to break you. It was strengthening you. The waiting wasn't trying to punish you. It was preparing you. And preparation changes everything. Imagine handing $1 billion to someone without discipline. Imagine giving enormous influence to someone without integrity. Imagine placing great responsibility on someone without character. What happens? Eventually, everything falls apart. Because opportunity magnifies who people already are. It doesn't transform them. It reveals them. Success reveals character. Pressure reveals character. Responsibility reveals character. And your character has been forming for years. Quietly, patiently, consistently, without applause, without recognition, without guarantees. That's why your journey matters. Every difficult season, every disappointment, every setback, every lonely chapter, every moment you almost quit, Every moment you kept going. It all mattered, more than you realized. Because every challenge was asking the same question. Can this person be trusted with more? Not more money, not more attention, more responsibility, more opportunity, more influence, more impact. And every time you chose growth over bitterness, you answered. Every time you chose integrity over convenience, you answered. Every time you chose perseverance over surrender, you answered. Every time you chose hope over cynicism, you answered. Without realizing it, you've been building a reputation with life itself. And life notices. People notice. Opportunities notice. Success notices. Not immediately. Eventually. This next realization may be the most important of all. The person you've been waiting for may not be a billionaire, may not be a mentor, may not be an investor, may not be a powerful connection. The person you've really been waiting for is the future version of yourself, the version that fully understands their worth, the version that stops doubting, the version that stops shrinking, the version that stops apologizing for taking up space, the version that finally sees what others have been seeing all along. Because once you see your value clearly, everything changes. You stop chasing every opportunity. You start choosing the right opportunities. You stop begging for recognition. You start attracting recognition. You stop wondering whether you're enough. You start acting like someone who knows they are. That's power. Real power. Not power over others. Power over your own limitations. Power over fear. Power over self-doubt. Power over old stories that no longer serve you. And that power changes lives. Maybe not overnight, but permanently. Now imagine yourself 1 year from today. Imagine looking back at this moment. Looking back at the uncertainty, the questions, the waiting, the frustration, the doubt. Imagine realizing that everything was leading somewhere. Imagine realizing that the growth was real. The preparation was real. The transformation was real. Imagine realizing that the breakthrough wasn't luck. It was the natural result of becoming the person capable of receiving it. That's the truth. That's the shocking truth. Not that someone powerful is interested in you, but that the qualities powerful people value have already been growing inside you. The discipline, the resilience, the wisdom, the character, the depth, the authenticity, the strength. Those qualities are your greatest asset. Far greater than money, far greater than status, far greater than popularity. Because those qualities create everything else. And once you understand that, you stop feeling behind. You stop feeling forgotten. You stop feeling invisible. You begin understanding something profound. Your story has not been delayed. Your story has been developing. And development takes time. But when the time comes, when preparation meets opportunity, when growth meets recognition, when character meets possibility, the results can change everything. So tonight, before you close your eyes, remember this: you are not who you were. You have survived too much, learned too much, grown too much, overcome too much, to keep doubting yourself. The next chapter isn't waiting for a perfect version of you. It's waiting for the version you've already been becoming. And that version is far stronger, far wiser, far more valuable, and far closer to breakthrough than you realize. If you're still listening, comment, "My time is coming." Because sometimes the most shocking thing isn't that someone powerful notices you. Sometimes the most shocking thing is finally realizing why.